I'm Richard Dodd, and you're listening to the Ecology Academy podcast. This is a show where we get to talk and learn about all things ecological, including interviews with top ecologists, both employers and employees, those working with ecologists, and also aspiring and inspiring career-seeking individuals setting out to make a difference. The show aims to provide you with insights, advice, and inspiration to help you succeed and excel as an effective ecologist and to make a real difference to our natural environment. Hi there, and a Happy New Year to you all, and welcome to the first episode of 2024 on the Ecology Academy podcast. If it's your first time here, you're very much welcome, and there are 30 plus episodes to go and enjoy. And if you're unsure where to start, if you want to send an email to myself, hello@ecologyacademy.co.uk, I can point you in the right direction. Just say what you're sort of interested in. I can signpost you there. Although there are about 30 odd episodes there, so the navigation shouldn't take too long. This is a mixture of interviews. The podcast is a mixture of interviews and also my own personal sort of thoughts as well as an employer of an ecological consultancy based in the United Kingdom. So my name is Richard Dodd, and welcome to the Ecology Academy podcast. Now, on this episode, it's the first one of the year, 2024, and you probably can't fail to see all around you job advertisements everywhere. So recruitment is a big thing at the moment, whether you're an employer or whether you're looking for that new role or whether you're looking for your first role as an ecological consultant or any sort of environmental professional. This episode is going to be brilliant for you. So really packed with sort of tips for employers and also an understanding from an employee's and prospective employee's point of view of sort of the process we go through as recruiters, looking for the right sort of candidates. So in this episode, I'm going to focus, it's just me, I'm just going to focus upon how to maximise the hire of an ideal candidate and why that's important. And then we'll also look about how to avoid or minimise biases during the recruitment process, because as we all know, the whole recruitment process can be full of those biases there, whether it be intentional or unintentional, hopefully unintentional, but hopefully just if you're aware of some of the biases, it helps you to just try to avoid those. And also we're going to look at if recruitment goes badly, hopefully it won't for you, but if it does go badly, what sort of things you could learn from, in terms of taking that forward, learn from your mistakes and how to rectify them going forward. So hopefully you won't make a bad hire in the future. Now, there's no guarantee you're going to make a bad hire because the whole recruitment process is a little bit about it is sales. You as an employer, you're selling your company or yourself to attract talent to your company, so a person can deliver a particular service and that aligns with maybe your mission, your company values, and so forth. And equally so, if you are looking for a job, you're also selling yourself. You want to be employed. You want to be employable. You want to say the right thing. So there are two angles to take here. That the employer is probably doing their best to attract you, and also as a potential employee, you're trying to do your best to come across as authentic and the fit for that company itself. So there's going to be some sort of challenges going on there at both ends. So first of all, I'm going to look at sort of how, as an employer like myself, I've been in recruiting ecologists and non-ecologists in terms of practice managers and sales and marketing and so forth within the company, and also external hires, looking at HR consultants, IT consultants, health and safety consultants. It's all part of the same process. How do you vet these sort of people? But we're going to concentrate upon, I suppose, the external recruitment market. How we're going to attract a candidate to come to us from an external source, but also just bear in mind that let's not forget our internal candidates. There probably are more suitable internal candidates within your midst that you could actually recruit from. So do not forget that your internal people, to bring forward rather than actually just going for external, because it is a lengthy process. So let's look about how you can maximise the hire of an ideal candidate. Okay, so the first part is, even before you even put that advert out, even before you put the job description to go out, do you need that role? What is the need for that role? Looking at the strategic element behind that. So it's planning for it. If you're by yourself, if you're a sole trader and you're going to hire your first employee, for instance, it's identifying, okay, what do I need this person to do or these people to do? What is the role they're going to be participating in? Is it needed? Do I need it now? What training and development will they need? What support? What equipment? Can we afford to hire this person now? Can we afford not to hire someone now as well? So it's all those different elements that you need to consider before even put that job description together, go to the market and try to find that person. Okay, so it's assessing your current team or your current team's capabilities and identifying those gaps. It's forecasting business needs as well. So what areas of your business that you either may serve or underrepresent or maybe don't represent at all that you would like to get into. So biodiversity net gain in 2024 is clearly going to be huge. And so you're probably going to be wanting someone with either those skills or offering that service to your customer, your clients. And you may need to bring in someone that either has those skills, as I say, or if they don't, how you can develop together to develop the right skills, the offering for to serve your clients well. So I'm making sure that any new hire aligns with your vision, your business plan, shall we say. You also need to define the scope, responsibilities, and the impacts of the new role as well. So, how, if you've got an existing workforce, how will that new person fit in? What resources do they need in order to not just to do their work, but thrive in your environment, in your role as well. And also, it's that critical mass. You may be comfortable with working with 5 or 6 people, then all of a sudden you hire an extra couple of people. And it goes through, okay, well, how are we going to administer or manage these people? Who's going to do the management aspects of this? Who's going to be their line manager? Who's going to be their first point of contact? Who's going to train them? Because it may be you as the sole owner, there may be the managing director or the principal ecologist within your company, but it could be that actually there's no one there to train them, so you have made us take a step backwards, thinking how am I going to support these people? Because recruitment is one part, but actually keeping a person within your company is critical, because recruitment process is lengthy, it's time consuming, it's expensive. You want to make sure you get it as right as you can, and hence maximising the hire at this stage. So think about the need for the role. It's not just a question of we need some boots on the ground, let's go and get them. Okay, so you decided that there is a need for the role, you've got the resources, you know what they are, they know what they're going to be doing. Okay, so let's define the role. Let's create the job description, because this is another pitfall that a lot of employers like myself have fallen into, that we've just rehashed out a job description that was there a couple of years ago, and it may not be fit for purpose. We've left in things that were there from a couple of years ago. We may have changed the slight scope, the objectives. We put in the responsibilities there, but now we want them to align to key deliverables, for instance. So drafting the job description is going to be really important to you. You want to make sure you're attracting the right candidates to the role. Don't make it too... And as I say, it's got to be fit for purpose. So make sure you got the detail in there. There's specific skills, qualifications if they're needed, experience if required. It's all there. What are you after? What can you afford to offer the candidate to? Including information about your company values, your culture, because you are trying to attract someone in, especially if it's in a role that we know is quite difficult to obtain. Okay, so you've got to stand out as an employer to the potential candidates to draw their attention to you in order to make the next step, which is to seek out whether, could I fit in there, could I not, and make that evaluation. So making sure that your culture and values is part of that recruitment process in the job description. Also, you're going to state your clear objectives and potential career progression paths as well. So candidates, as an employer, we should recognise that, as an employee, myself too, that, it's not just here and now, but where does my career fit in within the next year, 2 years? is this as a seasonal role? Is there opportunity to actually progress, become a full-time employee? If it is your first role as an assistant, maybe a junior member of the team, what are the options for you as you develop your career? So putting all that together, it's an offering from the employer to the candidate. And make sure you've got the detailed job description and crafted that, going over it, maybe getting a review from someone, different input, looking at a career coach to help you hone that in. A second pair of eyes is actually invaluable. You want to make this offering really, get the best out of it, maximize the value. Right, okay, you've drafted that, and it sounds so easy, doesn't it? This will probably take a couple of iterations and reiterations. So making sure that you get it right is correct. So the next part is advertising the role. Where do you go? Now, if you've got a website, clearly you're going to put it on there. You may be using social media channels, making sure that you're attracting the right sort of people. If it's a technical, ecological, environmental route, you're probably going to go to the right sort of social platforms where those people sort of hang out. So where it's going to get the most sort of views, most eyeballs on that sort of the job advert itself. Do you go to a job site such as Environment Jobs, CGS Online, and so forth? All these places where you will have to pay for the job advert itself. Now, that's a decision you will have to make. We've done both. Obviously you'll do all of these together if you want to maximize the number of returns. But if it's for a role which is pretty niche, and also you're going to get a limited number of applications, you may want to cast your net a little bit wider, but also target it quite so specifically. So in job sites you can go on to advertise there. So make sure you've got the right job sites you're going to. Now, if that's an option to you, you may have to go to a recruitment agency, and I'm sure there's recruitment agencies, shouting, "What about us? We can really help," and they can. And it depends upon the role, So we've had roles coming in through recruitment agencies, but there's nothing better than recruiting yourself. But it's a trade-off. So if you haven't got the time, and also that network, you may want to go to a recruitment agency who will do their utmost to actually get that role to you. And you probably receive thousands, or at least tens, if not in hundreds, of applications and potential CVs from these recruiters already. So you probably know some already. So make sure you advertise the role right on the industry-specific platforms. And I say, and also engage with your candidates as well. It's not just a question of putting it out and leaving it and see what comes back. You may have to interact, engage, ask, answer questions that are posted there. Invite other people to share your posts and talk, and it may be inviting people to hold a discussion about what's this company like to work for, and they'll do their own research. And if you are a potential employee, clearly, this is, they've cast the net. It's now up to you whether you decide to go with them or not. Does the branding look good? The culture, does it all match up? Are there any irregularities there that doesn't, inconsistencies that don't match up? So as an employee, you want to make sure you minimise those or you avoid them completely. And as a potential candidate, you want to make sure that it does seem genuine, and also that there is that offering there that you can see yourself working in there for the given period, or actually opportunities to move on. So that's advertising the role. Once that role's gone, and also I'll just say about also the length of time. So as an employer, you'd want to make sure that if you're going to receive hundreds of applications, maybe for an entry role, you may want to limit the window of opportunity to maybe a couple of weeks, a month, maybe tops. But maybe for more senior roles, the whole roles that are difficult to fill, you're probably going to cast your net further and also extend that deadline, maybe a 2-month window of opportunity for advertising the role. You may have to go to different channels. It may be a iteration. You will gauge the number of applications coming in, and you can either turn on or turn off certain taps during that process itself. So this area is going to be quite, role specific, shall we say. And equally so, you want feedback. So if it's your first time of advertising, you want to know where to, especially if you're paid, where does that value go? What's your return of investment? So if you get 0 hits off a particular site, you may not want to go there again. Equally so, it could be just the type of role you put in. Maybe review your description. Does it, going back to those other points, does it meet the need? And also, has the job description been accurately outlaid? Okay, so the next role, you've advertised it, you've got some applicants coming through. Now you need to do some screening and shortlisting. Now, every company is going to be different, and every employer is going to be doing it differently here. And again, all these areas I mentioned are full of bias. So, where it be, hopefully it's unconscious bias, but but it's bias nonetheless. So screening can be quite subjective. So you want to put a bit of objectivity into there. So using a standardized process to reviewing applications to ensure fairness is going to be one of your top priorities here. And clearly you've thought about this before, right at the very start of the process, how you're going to be doing that. You're going to shortlist candidates based on a mix of qualifications, experience, and potential cultural fit. So again, it's just because you don't want everyone who's a robot and mimics exactly the same people as you within your company. You may want to do that, but in terms of inclusivity and also diversity, innovation, people bring new ideas in. You want a bit of a mix of people there and ideas. All right, so you want to make sure you got that in there. So take that into consideration. You may also want to consider using a blind recruitment technique to reduce unconscious bias. This is that maybe someone blanks out the names, puts them into a standardized format, for instance. Every single CV, if you're using a CV as a recruitment method, is exactly the same. The wording will be different. Okay, so you're going on what's down on the paper. So you're removing a slight bias in terms of names and all those other areas of bias that come into it too. So that's going to be a critical process. And I say it's riddled with biases. It's I think it comes down to experience. If you're a recruiter, for instance, that you're going to go through trying to find the best method to actually extract these. Now, if you're in one way lucky or unlucky that you get only a small number, you have to make a decision. Am I going to offer this person an interview or get to the next stage, shall we say, or screening based upon their application? Are you so desperate you'll accept anyone, or is it that there's a poor lot of candidates coming through? What do I do now? Do I go to re-advertise, or do I actually rethink my sort of strategy? Do I rethink my position here? Because that certainly will happen. That's certainly what we've encountered when it comes to senior roles. We've had some some candidates come forward, but they haven't quite met the mark. They haven't, what we're looking for at the advertisement stage. So there's no point just extending this, inviting people for an interview when they're not sort of the candidate you're after. It's waste their time, waste your time. Okay, so you've got to make a decision. Do I re-advertise? Do I pull the post? Or do I reevaluate the strategy? What do I need to do? So maybe if you've gone to social media channels, you may want to start to paid advertisements or actually recruitment agency. It's reevaluating that process. But once you've screened them, you've got down to the candidates. Now you've got to decide whether it's 1, 3, 5 people you're going to interview. What's the interview process going to be like? So conducting the interviews and assessments is going to be in a controlled environment, whether that be out in the field. You can do walking interviews, making sure that I think those are really good ones that you can actually gauge a person. They're more honest as you go there, walk alongside someone. They provide, it's that lack of eye contact. People feel a little bit more secure. Don't have to. It's not in a stressful environment. But clearly, majority of interviews and assessments are inside a building of some sort, so or online increasingly now. So you've got to prepare for that. So have you got the right technology? This is from an employer's point of view. Have you got the right technology? What happens if your broadband goes down? What happens if their internet connection goes down? How are you going to are you going to record it? How are you going to record it? How long do you keep those recordings for under GDPR, for instance? And also the questions you're going to ask. So what sort of questions? How long is the process going to go on for? And again, it's got to be standardized techniques to avoid that bias, those biases really. So you may want to include a practical test, if relevant, maybe species ID, whether it be plant, botanical, whether it be species led. You want to check those references as you go along, and also who sits on that panel? Who is in your interview team? Is it just one person? Is it just you? Or have you invited maybe a second person along, maybe three other people? Do you then walk them through the office or to introduce them to other people and maybe have them ask them questions as they go along? So all this has been mapped out. But a diverse panel certainly helps. It helps spread the load. People ask different questions, or even if the same question, they may ask it in a different way. These things can actually help. So you've conducted the interviews and the assessments. You've whittled it down now. You've got your ideal candidate. You've offered them the position, and they've accepted. All right, and you've also informed the other candidates that, unfortunately, at this moment in time, your application was unsuccessful. We wish you all the best in the future, and you may provide feedback. In fact, I would advise you to provide feedback because they've taken the decency to take time out of their day to travel to your site, for instance, or maybe spend time with you online. And I think providing feedback is going to really help. With your brand, you don't want to be a brand that just is cold. They go, okay, they're just using us really, and you get no feedback. It doesn't help you as an employer, your brand. It doesn't help the candidate because they want to know, well, what do I need to do better next time? Or at least they should want to know what to improve upon in the next instance. And equally so, you want to keep on good terms with them, because if your ideal candidate, the one you've offered to, who's accepted at a later stage, backs out, and we'll come on to sort of what if something goes badly, you kept on good terms with those people, you've got maybe, hopefully, an option to go back to them and go, do you know what, didn't work out with number one, and you got to phrase it the right way, didn't work out with their previous candidate, but the vacancy is still here. Would you like to be considered for the role? We'd very much like you during the interview process. So it pays dividends just to make sure that you are keeping on board with the candidates that didn't quite make the first cut. So once you've got that candidate there, ideal candidate, okay, next thing is to do your reference checks. So making sure, and I think this is one thing that, again, it's a pitfall. People just go, oh yeah, come in, start next Tuesday, blah, 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 and off you go. When really, you should really use that opportunity to have a cooling off period, shall we say. So the candidate can go, have I made the right decision? Because there's nothing, we've been, I tell you what, the recruitment process is really stressful, because even if you've gone through all this process, you've got the candidates, you've got the ideal one, there's no guarantee that they will turn up on their first day. Even if you kept checked in a week before, go, yeah, I'm coming, yeah, no problem at all, see you, what is it, what do I wear? Yeah. We've had people who just did not turn up on day one. Rude. It's like phoning it, oh, sorry, I didn't know how to say that, I've just got another offer, or actually it's not the right time for me. So it's quite stressful. So making sure you do your background checks is going to be critical there. Check, making sure you get those references, do check them out. They're pretty vague, I'm afraid. This is one thing that really bugs me, is that we're trying to find the right candidate, and if there's a previous employer or your referee, for instance, some of your previous employers will just go, yep, this is what they did, and that's it. They just, yes, they worked for us. That really is, it's not a great background check, but it's all we have to go for. So I'd probably encourage employers to write a little bit more about the person and go, yeah, they're a great person, they're fantastic, and we wish you well. If the opportunity arose, we'd have them back. We send out a form to the referees asking the different questions. Most of the time, they come back with their own forms and going, we don't fill in other people's reference check forms. Here's our own, and there you go. So, as an employer, it's really frustrating, but it's what you go with. So try to maybe ask a little bit more information and get those references. Equally so, check up on the academic qualifications if they're required, professional certifications, the licenses, all those things. It's your time to make sure this person is genuine, because they've come across the interview really, really well. The application form was excellent, but now is your time to double check that, because hire slow and fire fast is the rule that we come across. And it sounds mean, but as an employer, you want to do that. You want to make sure that you're hiring the right person, because you don't want to spend another 3-6 months trying to find another candidate. So reference checks, validation checks, extremely important. Okay, and then I say you made the offer, they've come on board. Okay, everything's been discussed. Next stage is the onboarding process. Your recruitment doesn't stop once they're on day one. It's you've gotten this far. Now you want to keep them. So the onboarding process has to be structured. There has to be an onboarding program. Who's doing what? If you're if it's just you, you'll be doing everything. The admin, making sure they've got the laptop, the IT sorted. They know what they're doing. They know where the restrooms are. They know what lunch breaks are. It's very daunting on day one, week one, month one with any new job. As an employer, we have to recognise that. We may have told them, we may go, this is what you do, blah, blah, blah. Here's a book, go and read it. This is our standard policies. This is, any problems, just go and read that. That's okay, but it's overwhelming. People want to know that you may have told them, you may have to tell them 3-5 times. It doesn't mean that you've hired a bad person. This is human nature. We will forget. If you go to a brilliant play, production, music event, comedy event, whatever, during that time in there, you're loving it. You're talking about it, not a problem. You go out there, day one, week one later, you go, do you know what? I can't remember anything about that. I know it was good, but I can't remember any of the jokes that were told. I can't remember the set list or anything like that. So it's exactly the same with it's going to be the same with your new employee. They're going to forget things. It's not deliberate. It's a lot of information to take on board. They don't want to make a mistake. They're on their best behaviour. So give them that opportunity to ask the question and re-ask the same questions as well. There's no harm in it. You need to provide that right culture for them. So onboarding is going to be really, really critical. Assigning a mentor or a buddy for a new hire is fantastic. Take them out for lunch. Regularly check in with the new employee, asking, addressing their concerns. And this may go on for, let's say, it's certainly obviously day one, week one, month one. But the next stage is your probationary period. How long is it? I would say a minimum of 3, probably 6. We go for 6 months probationary period. And why is that? I think it's a bit long. No one's really themselves within the first couple of months. Probably no one's really themselves during the first 3 months. So that's the reason why we say 6 months. You need to find out about them. They need to find out about you. And then you get build this picture. There's no guarantee, but then you build this picture. Actually, they are asking the right questions. They're getting on with the work. They are responsive. They are matching the criteria we put out in the job description. And even more so, they're brilliant cultural fit. But equally so, gives you the opportunity to go identify, they're slightly coming in late after month 3, or they didn't quite turn up for this event, or they weren't on top form, even though we prepped them and they reiterated. So you've got to investigate that. So probationary period is extremely important. You've got to set those clear objectives, expectations of the probationary period. Offer regular feedback and support them throughout their career, and making sure throughout this period, making sure they adjust and grow with you as a company. And also, at each stage, you're going to conduct a formal review. It has to be a formal review at the end of the probationary period to assess their performance and fit. You have to make a decision, is this person, because after 6 months, you have to have a real good reason why you're extending the probationary period. There may be concerns. If that is a concern, you could extend it. Okay, I would seek HR advice whether you need to extend a probationary period. Okay, we've done it, I think, once in our past because maybe it's a complex role or a senior role. We want to make sure that it was right for the right person, and there was a little bit of alarm bells, but that could be a bad onboarding process, so we may have extended that one. But the majority of the time, you've got a good idea whether or not that person is right for you within the first 6 months. Okay, and clearly, once the probation period ends, there's the post-probation integration. Now they're going to relax, and you may notice some changes once they've got their contract fully signed now and they are out of probationary period, you still want to keep an eye on performance. Doesn't matter how long a person's been in their job, you want to make sure that the performance is still there. So after successful probation, you want to fully integrate that employee into the team, making sure that there's check-ins, doing your quarterly appraisals, annual appraisals, whatever time frame you got there. Discuss their long-term career aspirations and opportunities within the company, and continue to provide that support and regular performance reviews. I think this is all good practice. If you haven't got that, I should write it down. I'll put this into the show notes, so you just got an idea of what we do in terms of, as I say, in terms of the recruitment process and getting the best candidate. Now, I just want to turn my attention quickly up on biases, how to avoid or minimise biases at each stage of that hiring process. So it's similar stages there. So first of all, identifying the need for the new role. So you want to involve a diverse group of stakeholders and people to assess, to decide whether you're going to create a new role and how that's based. Why do you need it, and get a range of perspectives. So that's the first part, to avoid that. So are you hiring for the right reason? And focus on the business needs and how that aligns with your organizational objectives, rather than your personal preferences. I think we're overwhelmed. We need to get some more people in. Let's bring those people in. We go back to the original people. Make sure you got a couple of voices there to go, are you sure? I think we're just reacting in a knee-jerk reaction. We may need someone, but can we afford it? Are they going to do the right job? Is it a profitable job? So making sure you've got a couple of people challenging the decision maker there. So make sure it is if you're lucky enough to have a consensus, get that consensus at the start. Going on to the job description, using neutral, inclusive language to avoid gender or cultural biases is clearly going to be one thing you're going to be doing. Focus on the essential skills and qualifications to avoid setting unrealistic or biased criteria. Going back to that, do they need a degree to lift up a reptile sheet? Do they need a driving license? Is something that you could provide? Are you missing out on some people who are maybe they can't afford to driving lessons because they've gone from university or a different background, and they haven't had an opportunity to obtain that driving license, and you're excluding them straight away based on a piece of paper that says you can drive? But is it something you could offer? They've got all the other skills. Maybe you could work that around. So focus on the essential skills qualifications rather than just unrealistic ones, and consider using some sort of software. AI is clearly entering into this market that can help you remove some of those biases. So use technology where you can. Onto the advertising the role, cut out some biases, place the adverts in a variety of mediums and areas to reach a diverse audience. Avoid language or imagery that may unconsciously appeal to more to certain groups. Okay, so the language we use, the images we use, just be careful of what you do there if you want to attract a diverse audience and to avoid that bias. And state your commitment to diversity and inclusivity with the advert. If in your values you value inclusivity and diversity, spell it out. Don't just write the blank statements. Demonstrate how you are how diversity is included within your organisation, your company. When we're screening and shortlisting candidates, we want to implement those blind recruitment practices, as mentioned, using standardised criteria, and also, more important, I think this is a big thing: training the interview team or the whole recruitment team about their body language, about the sort of questions they ask, how about screening, just to ensure that the questions they ask are unbiased. And there's no sort of loose links there really throughout the shortlisting process. And also, when it comes to conducting the interviews and assessments, again, there's standard interview questions, include diverse interview panel as well, and again, there's training the interviewers themselves. Reference checks, standardised reference check questions that get asked to everyone, not just certain people, but be aware of the potential for biased feedback from referees and weigh it accordingly as well. So some people may be desperate to get rid of someone, so you need to cut through that and identify that. It could be that the referees you've identified, it may be that the candidate has chosen specifically that they're their best mates, although it looks like an academic. So it's making sure you've got the right referees there, the references. When you make the offer, ensure that the salary offers are based on the market rates and role requirements and not the candidate's previous salary. And this will just start to avoid those pay inequalities. There's nothing worse than going into an interview not knowing what your salary is going to be, because I think it's unfair. It's an additional pressure. So jobs should be advertised with salary, I believe. Where it's not advertised, we shouldn't be using a previous person's salary to go, okay, well, you were on I don't know, 25,000 in your previous job. We'll offer you 26. Sounds good, increasing £1,000. When actually, when you go into the role, other candidates in there, because they've asked, are on 32 or maybe 28. Maybe there's one at 21. So I think the employer has to be aware that they shouldn't really be basing the offer on the previous salary. Really, it should be exactly on market conditions. And also be transparent on how you decided that as well. So why is the range this and this? From here to there. That's because everyone has that. Here's our career framework progression. Here's our career progression framework document, and you can see open. It's transparent. Everyone's on this. You're here because of X, Y, Z, and I can demonstrate it. If you can demonstrate that to someone, that's brilliant. Okay, rather than going, well, I just want to save a bit of money. Obviously, you're not going to say this, so we're going to put you on the lower end of the band. Okay, if it's your first job, you can probably expect that, but you can say, okay, well, where'd you get that figure from? Anyway, onboarding process, making sure provide diversity inclusion training as part of the onboarding process, and ensure that the onboarding process is consistent for all new hires. That's difficult, especially as things change. But if you can make it the same, if you've got two people starting at the same time, you want their onboarding process to be the same, similar or the same, really. So they want to go, oh well, candidate A had a better experience because they were in a different office, or because they're I don't know, people got on with them a little bit more on day one. It has to be fair and inclusive. Probationary period, it has to be objective. You've got to set measurable goals for the probationary period, regular review performance against those goals, and not against subjective criteria. Do not change the goalposts as well. So stick to those. If you do need to change something, you inform that person. Okay, we say we're going to be a 6-month probationary period. Because you haven't done this, this, and this, or we're concerned about this, we're going to increase it to 9 months. Okay, and take a review. And this is what we expect you at the end of the 9 months. And so if you meet those criteria, it's the end of the probationary period. If not, it may be the end of the role itself. And of course, post-probation integration, encourage inclusive practices within the team, and that making sure you continue to monitor and address any biases. Look out for language, look out for body language, look out for integration there. You want to stamp out particular practices that you want to nip it in the bud, or hold those people to account. And that goes for the employee, looking at the employer. You said this, your values are this and this and this, and you're going against them. I think as any employee should be able to raise their voice there. So I think that's, those are my tips for employers and people coming in, changing jobs, looking at it from the sort of how to maximise value, and also sort of how to remove that bias during the process itself. I'm going to wrap up. Sorry about that. I tend to go on a little bit now. In these podcasts. But I'm going to wrap up now saying, if recruitment goes badly, it rarely does, but if recruitment goes badly, what, as an employer, can I do? Okay, so, there's various things that could go bad. As I've mentioned before, the candidate doesn't turn up. You've offered them a job, they don't turn up on day one. What do you do? Why is the reason? Why was that? Or during the probationary period, they really changed, or they went against one of your values. For instance, they did something that was a little bit strange, especially because during your probationary period, you're probably on your best behaviour. Now, if something challenges that during that probationary period, alarms bells should ring. especially if it goes against what you say your values. I think that's why values are important within a company, because you can spot them. People, if you've got more than one employee and it's working well, they expect you to act as in a certain standard to your principles. You're doing it, they're doing it as well. So if your new employee doesn't demonstrate that, alarm bells should start to ring. Equally so, it could be some of a failure. So let's look at the different ways that's what we should actually do. So when you conducting a thorough review of the process, I think that's the most important part. Analyze each of those stages of the recruitment process to identify where it's deviated from your expectations. And that's the clear thing about having a plan. What do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? And how it's manifested. So what were your expectations? If you didn't meet them, why was that? Did I set too high standards? Was the job description not correct? Did I just hire knee-jerk reaction? So you're looking at all the different aspects itself. Seeking feedback from the recruitment team, the candidates themselves. If there's no good hires there, you want to see, reason why. And maybe if you're using external agencies, get some feedback from them as well. Then you want to identify the specific issues, determine if the problems related to an unclear job description, an inadequate assessment method, poor candidate experience, or other factors, and assess whether there are any legal or compliance issues during the process itself. This is a really good opportunity to, identify what the real issue is, the root cause of maybe a bad candidate or failure at recruitment. And then, of course, you want to implement the corrective actions. You've identified them. You've conducted a review. You've identified them. You found out what the root cause is. Itself, and you need to change your behaviour, or you need to change processes. Something has to change itself. So address the issues in the review. For example, you may revise the job description. You may improve your communication with candidates, or update interview and selection methods. And I said, if there's any legal issues, you want to address those to ensure that you're fully compliant in the next round. Improve training for recruitment staff as well. So you need to provide maybe it wasn't clear what their roles were during the recruitment process. So providing the training to include unbiased recruitment practices, effective interview techniques, legal compliance, and so forth, making sure they are up to date, especially the lead recruitment manager, should we say, they make to be sure that it is UK compliant. Revise recruitment strategy and policies. It goes back, once you've done those, update your recruitment policies and strategies to reflect the lessons learned, and inform other people about those changes too. It's one thing making the change, but it's going to happen again. Inform people. Enhance the candidate experience. So make the application process more candidate friendly. Why didn't you get so many applications before? What was it? Was it where they were posted? Is it because there was no engagement within the post? People ask questions, but no one was there to respond to it. So improve your experience with the candidates there, and ensure timely, respectful communication with all candidates. If you said the interview, the closing date is on this date, and it wasn't, it was the day before, or maybe 3 weeks later, you can see that was miscommunicated to your candidate themselves. Interview dates set, changed. Why? If something does change, you need to communicate that effectively. And I say, if the process just didn't find the right candidate, you need to re-engage with the others as well. I think you need to find out, the reasons behind poor candidate selection. Strengthen your employer brand. Address those negative feedbacks straight away. Okay, so you want to cut out things or answer those questions. Go on to the social media platforms themselves and just nip those in the bud. Really, enhance your employer brand through positive communication, and be honest for your strategies there, for your marketing campaign. Seek external assistance. So this may be a recruiter. If internal efforts are not sufficient, you may want to go to an external HR consultant or recruitment agency, and then plan for better recruitment in the future. Okay, so those are all elements I think will help you. But if there's, I hope that's been useful. It's been a whirlwind the past 40
odd minutes there. So we've gone through the recruitment process. I'll put all these into the show notes so you can see what I think little stages you should go through in terms of looking for to maximise the value of the recruitment process, how to remove biases from the recruitment process itself. That's all for now. I'd say we'll be back next month, and we'll continue our interviews with other people in the ecology industry. Now, this is a call. If you've liked this episode, please do rate it on whichever platform you're listening to this on. It really helps us. It really does. So other people get to hear about it. Share it as much as you can. Also, provide feedback. If you didn't like this episode, what would you want us to talk about? I say us. At the moment, it's just me. I'm really looking for another co-host, another person who can actually take this on, provide a different voice to a wider audience, and really, help you become a better version of yourself throughout your career and become better employers, become better employees, and also, of course, help our sector and ensure that we are helping biodiversity at the same time. Now, that's all for me for now. I say any feedback, hello@ecologyacademy.co.uk for now. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show and want to help, then please click on the subscribe button and rate us on your favourite podcast player, as that's how you can inspire ecologists in the making, help retain great talent, and provide insights of our industry to a much wider audience of why ecology really does matter. Thank you. And remember, learning is a lifelong endeavour, so stay curious, be adventurous, and build bridges for others to cross.